The waiter knew my wife's order before she opened the menu. It was my birthday dinner at a restaurant I had never set foot in my life. And over the next 40 minutes, one plate at a time, one small mistake at a time, I learned everything my wife had been hiding for half a year. I left her sitting in that booth on my birthday, and the way I found out changed everything about how it ended. My wife and I were married 10 years, no kids. I own a small heating and air company, a dozen trucks, my name on the door. I am not rich, but I am comfortable. I started that company at 25 and ate dirt for the first decade of it. I say that up front because my money is a big part of what happened. My wife works 2 days a week at a bridal boutique, and I want to be careful here because I am going to say some hard things about her, and I want you to know I did not always feel this way. When I married her, I thought the confidence was the best part. Somewhere around year 6, the confidence turned into something else. I do not know the day it happened. I just know the results. She stopped saying thank you. That sounds small. Live with it for 4 years. The card was just the card. The vacations were just what we do. The upgrades were automatic. She sent her sister screenshots of things and wrote, telling him tonight, and I know that because her sister showed me. Much later, when everybody was picking sides, and if I pushed back on anything, and I mean anything, I got the speech. I should be grateful. Do I know how many men would kill to have a wife who keeps herself up like she does? She is the best thing that ever happened to me. That was the phrase, and she said it with a straight face, at volume, in front of company. You have met this woman. But here is the thing, and this is the part that kept me in it. She was never cold. She ran hot and loud and fun. She remembered every birthday in my family. She showed up gorgeous to every job dinner and charmed the paint off the walls. And at the end of the night, in my car, she would grab my hand on the console like we were 17. You do not leave that easy. You tell yourself the good part is worth it. For 10 years, I did. So, my birthday, a Saturday this past spring, she told me 2 weeks ahead, do not make plans. I am taking you somewhere special. I am handling everything. In 10 years, my birthday was usually a card and a dinner I booked myself. The woman was planning something for me, and I told my shop guys about it. That is how rare it was. My best installer said, took her 10 years, and we laughed, and I defended her. And I drove home that Friday, feeling good about my marriage. The night before, I felt good. Saturday night, she has me put on the jacket she picked, and we drive 40 minutes to a steakhouse tucked behind a hotel. No sign on it, just a brass door and a valet stand. I had never heard of it. I had never been on that block. She is in the passenger seat, directing me like a tour guide. There is the turn. The valet is on the left. Tell them we are with the 8 o'clock. We walk in, and the hostess lights up. Not at me, at her. So good to see you again. And then the hostess catches something in her own face, resets it, half a second, and says, welcome in. Do you have a reservation? I watched the reset. I did not understand it yet, but I noticed it. My wife says, the 8 o'clock corner booth, and the hostess says, of course, and grabs 2 menus and walks us through the dining room, and the busboy at the far station gives my wife a little wave. My wife gives him the 2-finger wave back. I asked her, walking, have you been here? She said, girls' lunch once or twice. The boutique girls love it here. And I need to stop and tell you about Wednesdays. For most of the past year, my wife had inventory night at the boutique. Every Wednesday, the shop closes. They count dresses. She gets home around midnight, eats standing up, goes to bed. I never once questioned it. That was the schedule in my head while the hostess was doing her reset. Okay, fine. That covers the hostess. That covers the wave, maybe. I put it down. We sit. Corner booth, tucked, candle, the whole thing. She does not open her menu. I noticed that and thought, she researched the menu ahead. She planned. That is sweet. I actually thought, okay, she put some effort into this. You can laugh at me. Some nights, I still do. The waiter comes over, older guy, sharp, 30 years on those floors, easy. And he says, good evening. And then he looks at my wife and says, the usual to start. The usual, that kind of caught me off guard. And my wife, without missing a beat, says, just sparkling water tonight. We are celebrating. It is his birthday. And the waiter caught it and turned to me friendly. Happy birthday, sir, and takes the wine order and glides off. And my wife picks up exactly 0 beats later, talking about how the ribeye here is unbelievable. And I know what some of you are thinking. A hostess, a wave, a usual, girls' lunch covers all of it. And you are right. That is exactly what I was telling myself in the booth on my birthday, while she talked about the ribeye she had clearly eaten more than once or twice. I made it all add up in her favor because the other answer was too big. The bread comes, the steaks come, and it is, and I hate this part, it is a great dinner. She is funny. She is bright. She has stories from the boutique. She reaches over and squeezes my forearm at one point and says, I am glad we did this. And for about 20 minutes, I am just a man having the best birthday dinner of his 40s. Then the server, young guy, vest, very polished, comes to the table holding a bottle sideways, and he says to my wife, should I pour the wine he likes, or is he not joining tonight? Nobody moved. I watched my wife's face change in that instance. The server felt the temperature drop at that table, looked at me, looked at her, and did the same. Reset the hostess did, except he did not land it because he was about 26, and he said, forgive me, wrong table. Can I offer the birthday gentleman anything? And my wife said, we are fine. He got out of there quick. There was a wine rack in my dining room. Nice one. She bought it 2 summers ago, kept it stocked, and I do not drink wine. I am a beer man, always have been. I used to joke that she collected it like shoes. There were 4 bottles of that same wine in my house on my rack, 40 minutes from his corner booth. The man's wine was in my dining room, and I dusted around it. And I sat there with my steak half cut, and I did the math I had been pushing away all night, and this time it would not add up her way. The hostess, the reset, the wave, the corner booth that did not need pointing to, the menu she did not open, the usual, and now a wine, a specific wine, for a specific man, a man who is a he, who is sometimes not joining, which means a he who is usually joining at this table with my wife at a restaurant 40 minutes from my house that I had never been to. I did not say anything for a minute. She did not either. And that told me plenty, because an innocent woman laughs about the poor kid mixing up tables. My wife cut her food and put her eyes on her plate, and her ears went red. And I watched the person I slept next to for 10 years try to outrun a wine order. And then she looked up, and I will give her this. She is quick. She said, they must think I am someone else. I have one of those faces. And she smiled and reached for my arm again. And I moved my arm. First time in 10 years. I said, what is his name? She said, whose name? And the second she said it, she knew it was the wrong move. I kept it low. I said, the wine you order for him, what is his name? And my wife, the best thing that ever happened to me, looked at me on my birthday in his booth and said, you are being crazy. We are not doing this here. We will talk in the car. 10 years of marriage, and her final offer was a conversation in a parking lot on my birthday at his restaurant. So here is what I did, and I had not planned 1 second of it. I waved the waiter over, the 30-year guy. I asked for the check for the food, tonight only, and I asked him one thing straight, man to man, and I asked it with her sitting right there because I was done doing things away from her. I said, the corner booth. How often is it her and this other guy? That man looked at me and looked at her, and 30 years of tips and discretion went across his face, and he chose. He said, "Lo, I would talk to the manager, sir. I can't say." I knew right then from his response, I put cash on the table for the steaks, to the dollar, plus his tip, because that man told me the truth, even when he didn't. And I stood up, and I buttoned the jacket she picked out for me, and I looked at my wife in his corner booth, and I said, "Happy birthday to me. Stay as long as you like. They obviously know you." And I walked past the hostess stand, and I said, "She is a regular. She will figure it out." And I got my car from the valet, and the kid had it up front in about 90 seconds, and I tipped him 20 out of the cash I had left because it was still my birthday, and I drove 40 minutes home with the radio off. She did not call for 25 minutes. When she finally called me, she was doing damage control in real time, half apology, half attack. It was crazy for me to leave her stranded, and also it was not what it looked like, and also how dare I interrogate a waiter, and also the man was a boutique vendor, a work contact, strictly work, and also, and this is the one I want you to think about, she said, "After everything I do for you, you embarrass me in a restaurant?" I said one thing to her, "Get a ride from your work contact." And I turned the phone face down, and I want to tell you what I did next. I went to the shop. Saturday night, 10 o'clock, I opened the bay, turned on the lights, and I detailed my car for 2 hours, vacuumed the mats, dressed the tires, all of it. My installer texted me, "Saw the cameras, you good boss?" And I texted back, "Best birthday in years." And the crazy part is, I halfway meant it. Her purse was still in my car, by the way. She had walked into that place carrying nothing but her phone. She got home after 1, an hour and change unaccounted for, and by then I was paying attention to everything. Sunday, she tried everything, crying at breakfast, anger by noon. How dare the staff discuss her? She would have the waiter fired? I said, "For what? He didn't do anything." And she would call the owner. And when she said the word owner, she heard it herself and shut her mouth in the middle of her own sentence. And that was the closest she ever came to just telling me, because that is who this guy was. Not a vendor, not a boutique contact. One of the 2 men who owned that restaurant, married, kids, a house, a man who could comp a corner booth every Wednesday with nobody above him to notice. She met him when the boutique did the linens or the flowers or whatever the story was. The story moved every time she told it, and I stopped listening to versions. Sunday night, after the crying and the vendor story fell apart, she went to her sister's, and Monday the flowers showed up at my shop, a delivery van, a glass vase the size of a fire hydrant, and a card that said, "You are my whole world. Let me fix this." My whole crew watched me carry flowers into my office like a receptionist. My best installer looked at the vase, looked at me, and went back under the unit he was working on without one word, and I appreciated that more than anything anybody said that entire month. She sent flowers to the man whose money she spent for 10 years. Even her apology came out of the joint account. At my first opportunity, I did 3 things before lunch. I called a lawyer. I pulled months of card statements, and I called the restaurant on the public line and made a reservation for Wednesday. For one, my lawyer first meeting asked me one question that organized the whole divorce. He said, "Forget the affair for a second. Tell me who paid for her life." And I sat there and itemized it out loud for the first time ever. The car lease, the standing hair appointment, the trips, the boutique job that covered about a third of her closet and none of her anything else. He wrote it all down and said, "Good news and bad news. Bad news. The affair will not cost her a thing in this state. Nobody cares. No fault. means no fault. Good news, 10 years and no kids mean nobody owes anybody a lifestyle. The law is going to treat your marriage like a business that closed, and she was not a partner, she was overhead. I did not say that last part. He said it. I just never forgot it. The statements were their own story. She had been telling me the girls' lunches were her treat from her boutique money. There were exactly 4 charges from that restaurant in 15 months, and 2 were from the night of my birthday. A woman who was there most Wednesdays at a place where the waiter knows her order, and the place shows up on our cards 4 times. You know what that means. I did not, until the lawyer said it out loud. It means somebody else was paying, or nobody was paying, which is worse, because comps come out of somebody's pocket, and these were coming out of his partner's. Her sister came by that week for the first load of her things, and I have to be fair to that woman. She was decent the whole way through. She stood in my hallway with a box of shoes and said, I told her 2 years ago this would happen. I asked her, 2 years? And she pulled out her phone and showed me the screenshots, the telling him tonight ones, a whole scroll of them. My marriage as a group chat I was never in. She said, I am not picking her side just because she is my sister. And then she picked up the box and left, and she still texts me on my birthday. Wednesday, I kept my reservation for 1. I am not going to pretend that was a smart move. My lawyer told me not to go. My brother told me not to go. I sat at the bar, ordered a ribeye, and watched the corner booth stay empty all night. The hostess would not look at me. The 30-year waiter came over near close, put a coffee in front of me I did not order, and said they both stopped coming. And then he said, for what it is worth, the whole floor thought he was her husband, had thought so for 6 months. You want to know what finding this feels like? That is it right there. A room full of strangers in vests who had my life mapped better than I did for half a year, 40 minutes from my house. The divorce was short, and I will keep it short. No kids, 10 years, a business I built before I ever met her, and kept separate the way my accountant thanked God I had. She came in asking for the life she was accustomed to. That was the actual phrase in the letter, accustomed to, and the letter itemized it. I am not exaggerating. There was a list, the car lease, a monthly figure for wardrobe, a monthly figure for what her lawyer called personal maintenance, which is her hair, and a travel budget line because she had, quote, become accustomed to 2 international trips a year. My lawyer put the letter down, took off his glasses, and asked her lawyer with a straight face whether the corner booth was itemized too. Her lawyer did not think that was funny. I thought it was pretty funny. What the law was willing to call her lifestyle and what she called it were 2 different numbers. She got a couple years of support to land on her feet, half of what we built together, which was the house money and the savings, and none of what she assumed, which was the company, the trucks, my name on the door. Her lawyer explained it to her in a conference room, and I am told she said, that cannot be all, and I have thought about that sentence more than I should. That cannot be all. It was all. It was always going to be all. Nobody had ever told her no with paperwork before. The owner, I never touched, did not need to. His partner found out where the comps were going, and he did not find it funny. And by fall, the man had been bought out of his own restaurant. His wife found out too, from another regular who could not hold it. And the last I heard, he is living above his brother's garage, and the restaurant has a new name and new linens. I found that out from the 30-year waiter, because I still go, once a month or so, bar seat, ribeye, best steak in the city. I am not giving that up too. I saw the owner once, months after, at the gas station by the highway, pumping gas into a white SUV with a car seat in the back. I knew his face from the restaurant's website. He did not know mine at all. 10 years next to my wife, and the man could not have picked me out of a lineup. I watched him finish and drive off. and I did not walk over because there was nothing left to say that his partner and his wife were not already saying for me. My ex-wife texted me one time since the decree, months out. She said, "I hope you know the dinner itself was real. I really was trying to celebrate you. And the thing is, I believe her." That is the part people do not understand about a woman like that. She was celebrating me at his table. Both things were true in her head at the same time. I did not text back. My birthday came around again 2 weeks ago. My brother grilled steaks in my backyard. My shop guys came by. Somebody brought a cake shaped like a furnace, which does not make sense and made me laugh anyway. Nobody knew my order. That was the best part of the whole day. This was a crazy story. This goes to show you, I always preach, pay attention to the state you live in. But a lot of men outside of YouTube won't do that. They meet somebody, the relationship goes well, and they get married, and now they have to put out a fire when that woman decides to file for divorce. Because we know 70 to 80% of women initiate divorce. And the stupidest thing to me is this woman taking her husband to the same place where she takes her AP. How bright is that? But in this case, he didn't have to go through her phone. He didn't have to hire a private investigator. A waiter gave her away. Interesting. See you in the next one.